Hello, ladies and gentlemen, this is Blue Maxima, and I want to talk to you for a bit about Salt and Sacrifice, which is the spiritual sequel to Salt and Sanctuary, which, if you didn't know, back in the day was basically the first Souls clone to get it right. It got Souls, it understood what made it so good, and as a result, outside of a few things they changed, which were almost universally for the worst, they actually made a Souls game that was worth playing, that wasn't from Software. So as a result, when this game was announced, I had an eye on it, and then when it released, it was actually cheaper than it previously was. Weirdly enough, it was like $24.99 to pre-order, but when they actually released it, Sony got their head in a tizzy because Epic Games had it cheaper, so the price went down. So I was like, okay, I'll pick it up, I'll play it, I liked the original. I don't like this one. They changed a lot about the formula, and almost none of it works. Like, genuinely, almost none of it works. It's so bad at all the things they decided to screw up. A friend of mine actually was talking to me about this game, and he told me that the original designer had a wife who was also very involved in the original game, but in Soul and Sacrifice, her last name is not on it anymore. And she's actually changed her last name. So there might have been a divorce going on, and she might have had more to do with the original than what might have been let on. With that said, I'm playing the PlayStation 5 version here because fuck Epic. And even with the quick loading times, a lot has gone wrong about this game. So you know how in Demon's Souls, how you had to go back to the hub world in order to level up, but it was okay because you could immediately go back to where you were? Not in this game. So the way that this works is all of the game is actually split into several smaller explorable worlds. It's not one big world anymore, a la any Souls game that isn't Demons or Soul and Sanctuary, for example. You start at one central obelisk, and then when you move out, you go to other obelisks, which are basically your bonfires in this game, that let you either rest or return to the hub world. But if you return to the hub world, you are always forced to return to the first obelisk, resulting in you needing to run through all of the other obelisks in order to get back to where you were. So that's a bit of a shit. I don't know why they expected this to be okay, but it just ends up being a massive pain in the ass. But it's okay though, because the game is mostly linear. And I actually mean this. There are a couple of opportunities for you to explore down another path, but you'll usually either A, be blocked, or B, it'll be like a 10 to 30 second side path with a chest at the end. Because here's how the game works. You have these bosses running around the world called mages. However, you can't actually fight mages just on the base of it. You need to go and find a body in the world, and this body will let you start the hunt for a mage. And the hunt for a mage usually involves going throughout this world, fighting the mage several times, although you'll only need to hit it a couple of times before it decides to run to its actual proper boss arena, where you'll actually fight the damn thing. At which point you'll rip out its heart and get a bunch of resources off of it. And then you will get to move through these doors. And there are these doors everywhere. They're red, and they have this little prompt that comes up that says you need to kill a named mage in this area to pass this door. Or you need to kill 3 named mages. Or you need to kill 5 named mages. And I gotta tell you, man, it makes the game so linear. Because the thing I like about the Souls games is that you usually have 2 or 3 opportunities to go explore, and they all lead down different directions. Salt and Sanctuary wasn't particularly great about this because it was 2-dimensional, so you didn't have that much room to maneuver, but it was still okay. I don't remember it being a problem there, outside of the whole Metroidvania tools things preventing you from going down certain paths, but that was okay. That was what they decided to do. In this game, these doors are everywhere, and you need to go through them in order to progress the game. And so as a result, You have to be hunting down these mages, and these mages often help make the game feel like this incredibly linear sequence of events. And I'm going to be honest with you, I kind of hate it. I hate the entire process. I hate going through the overworld trying to find these mages because it just feels dull. I hate trying to kill these mages too. Because another bad thing about this game is that the bosses all feel exactly the same. There are a couple that are out in the overworld that you can just stumble upon, but they end up being easier than the mages you need to kill in the first place. And the majority of them have very similar attacks and very similar behaviors. You fight them all on completely flat platforms. There's no platforming whatsoever, which, considering the main game actually has a fair amount of platforming and strategy to it, that's something. But yeah, they're all fought on completely flat platforms. They're all quite slow. You can dodge roll through most of them. And they all have a very similar set of melee attacks and ranged attacks, which usually end up being spells that are easy to dodge through. I've fought 8 bosses, and I've been able to take them out mostly using the same tactics, which is roll through them, hit them after their attacks miss, rinse and repeat, and sometimes there'll be a couple of like charge attacks that you can't dodge through, but they're easy enough to predict. So all of the bosses end up being relatively samey, and therefore relatively easy. Even if you have to use the majority of your, like, healing flask in order to do it, they just don't end up being interesting. Even the ones that you find out in the middle of nowhere that actually have different themes and therefore you would hope be different encounters feel almost exactly the same with their ranged attacks and how they work and their melee attacks and how they work. And so, after beating like 8 of the game's 20 or so bosses, because I've been going through and like looking at the trophies and whatnot, because it seems like every boss in this game has a trophy for you, I just don't care. I just don't care about fighting these bosses. They're not fun to fight. They're not interesting. They don't have their own unique gimmicks. At least not at the point that I'm at in the game. And you've also got the whole upgrade tree thing, which makes the game less interesting, which is you level up and that gives you skill points. And the skill points are what actually upgrade your abilities, whether it be your maximum health, your strength with your weapons, your dexterity with your weapons or whatnot. And that still ends up being a bit of a pain in the ass, because you don't know what weapons you're going to have available to you throughout the game, so you're kind of just taking weapons on the hope that you'll actually find something useful. The upside is that you actually get a lot of weapons and materials in this game. Oh, I should say weapon materials, because there are a lot of different monsters, there are a lot of different loot types. It feels almost like Monster Hunter in a sense, where you'll want to be grinding certain things in order to try and get the high-end materials. But that's about it, really. And so, oh yeah, there's also the overworld that they've added, which also ends up being a massive pain in the ass, because you have to walk back there every time in order to level up, like I've talked about. And it's not even like right next to where you spawn. You have to go like up and to the left. To upgrade your weapons, you have to go to the far right. To go to the shop, you have to go back to the left. And it is just kind of a pain, because it's like there's all this room you have to worry about. You have to wander around constantly to make sure something new hasn't opened up in the meantime after you left. And even then, it's just, even when you upgrade like your Metroidvania style tools that let you like explore more of the world, and it does let you get around the area a bit faster, it's like, it just takes up enough time to be a massive pain in the neck, even with the faster load times thanks to the PlayStation 5. So that entire overworld thing just ends up being a massive arse as well. And as a result, after 4 hours of Soul and Sacrifice, I should say, sorry, I just don't care. I genuinely just don't care. I don't feel like I'm exploring the world because it's incredibly linear due to the fact you have to hunt down the bodies and then hunt down the mages, and then that lets you go through like one door that'll let you continue through to another mage hunt. And it just feels like that over and over and over again. I don't like fighting the bosses because they all feel too samey. They all have really similar attacks in really similar arenas, and it makes the game a bit too easy to play. I don't like the way the overworld works, the way that you have to constantly warp back to it in order to level up, go shopping, and get your weapons upgraded. And then you have to warp back to the middle obelisk and run your way around to the other obelisks. There might be, of course, like some kind of item that lets you actually teleport between them later, but I haven't got that yet. I don't like the... I just don't like the fact that I don't feel like I'm exploring this world. I just feel like I'm on rails. At the very least, the combat is okay. It's a bit slow. I can't remember exactly how fast the combat was in Soul and Sanctuary, but I mean, it works alright. I've only had time to really play one class for a few hours, but I can't imagine how much better the spellcasters or the dex-based characters would be, but I'm not massively impressed with the combat, but it would be okay if the bosses and the exploration were actually up to snuff, but, well, they're not. There is also, like, some minor things, like you have to do the Demon Souls thing of actually, like, collecting resources in order to refill your health potions instead of actually just getting them back every time that you respawn, which I don't understand. And it's also really easy in this game to get wombo comboed, which is just get thrown into an endless string of attacks by two enemies and just end up dead through what feels like no fault of your own, but, I mean, on top of everything else, that's just kind of like the cherry on the shit sundae, ain't it? So, that was my opinion on Soul of the Sacrifice. Just don't bother. Honestly, just do not bother. There's really nothing here that's really that special. I don't care about it. The exploration sucks because it's so on rails. The bosses suck because they're so similar to each other. The overworld sucks because you have to constantly be porting back to it because you have to just go and level up and then you have to run through everything that you just went through again to get back to where you were. And everything else is just... And of course, it's just got, like, the skill tree that I never liked in the first place. It's got just being wombo comboed as a minor little bit on top of the shit sundae. And everything else is just kind of bog standard for this kind of game. And so, as a result, I don't like it. There's not that much here to like. Just don't bother. I got nothing else to say. That's really all there is to it. This has been Blue Maxima. I'll let you watch a little bit more gameplay. I'll see you all next time.